Okay, you're done. All of the hard work is done, and now it's mission accomplished. So what's next? Because with your degree from ITI, you'll have the tools you need to have a better life. And the reason we do this is you. We want to foster your dreams, your plans, and the hope for your future with a quality education. Our tagline is for a better life, so you can actually live the life you've always dreamed of. And it can all begin here at ITI, where we're invested in your future.
I'm Lee Feinswag, and this is Sports 225. And not just any Sports 225, this is the 25th year of the show. We started with Sports Monday, continued it into Sports 225, and now, a quarter century later, here we are. Sports 225 is sponsored by Breck. And now, me. Big-time television right here. All right, here we go. Well, it's always exciting for me to do Sports 225, and even more fun when I got my buddy Glenn Guilbeau of Gannett, Louisiana, or USA Today, Louisiana, or whatever the heck they call
USA
them
Today,
now.
Louisiana.
Yeah, but still Gannett News Service, right?
No,
So to speak.
we got rid of the Gannett. It's USA Today Network. And
Well,
I'm in
especially since
Louisiana.
USA Today may not be a Gannett property for long.
Well,
you know.
we merged with a Gateway company, so we're still keeping the Gannett name there. So, but that's a big merger, and it's unlike some mergers where they kind of eat each other. This merger is there were different parts. They had different properties, so they're merging to be bigger, as opposed to eating the other one, which is what happened with the Advocate, eating the Picayune, basically. That's what happened.
It's like Pac-Man.
Exactly. That's kind of what it was.
So Glenn, of course, lives in Baton Rouge and covers LSU, the SEC, does a little Saint stuff, and his primary responsibility is for the Gateway-owned newspapers in Louisiana.
USA Today.
It's
USA Today.
And USA Today. Well, USA Today first, and then trickle down to the
Yes,
newspapers.
it is. It is.
Oh, okay.
It's the USA Today network, and the Gannett kept the title first over Gannett Gateway.
Not bad for a guy who started out at Tiger Rag 100 years ago.
That's right. That's right. 1983.
Now, was that before or after Ron Higgins was at Tiger
No,
Rag?
Ron's about 4 or 5 years older than me. He had already been at Tiger Rag and left to bigger things, Shreveport, Baton Rouge, Memphis. I think he was in Memphis by the time he was still at the Advocate. He was at the Advocate with you in 83, 84.
No, actually, I replaced him.
Oh, you replaced him.
He left to go to
Okay.
Memphis.
Okay. He was there only 1 year, right.
And I bring that up only because our friend Ron Higgins is now back running Tiger Rag.
Right.
He's come full circle. And you've just kept matriculating up the field, as they say.
Yeah, Ron and I have had the same jobs at different times. We both worked at Shreveport, and we worked in Mobile at the same time. We both worked at the Tiger Rag at different times, and we both worked at the Advocate at different times. So it's kind of funny. But he's always been a mentor. He's hugely talented. You know, terrible mistake by the Picayune and the Clarion Ledger to let him go.
No doubt. No doubt. We've seen some stuff in the world of journalism, that's for sure. And one of the reasons I brought that out was today we're taping the show. It's December 4th. The first airing is December 6th. And, of course, December 7th is the SEC championship game, and we'll talk LSU Georgia football. But December 3rd, 1984, was my first day 35 years ago at the Advocate, which was then the Baton Rouge Morning Advocate, and then there was the State Times, the afternoon paper.
I was at Tiger Rag at the time.
Yep, the State Times folded
1991, I think.
Yeah, 91, and
great paper.
Are there many or any afternoon papers left in America now?
Well, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know, but it's cool. I always kind of wanted to work at an afternoon paper, just to see how it was working those hours, and I kind of feel like I work at an afternoon paper now because our deadlines are so early. They're not noon, you know,
Right.
but they are like 2 p.m. 2 p.m. You know.
Right? No. Let me tell
And
you.
then weekends it's like 5 or 6. But I mean, it's all about getting stuff posted early in the morning. You know, like I posted 2 stories today by 10:30 a.m., one at 8 a.m.
That's incredible. Yeah, no, it's so different. So I graduated from Southern Illinois University in Carbondale, went back to New York, and tried to get a job in the New York metropolitan area. Had no chance. Ended up getting my first job in Hannibal, Missouri. It was called the Hannibal Courier Post. It's 100 miles north of St. Louis. in one of the worst towns you've ever imagined. And it was a PM paper. And so that winter when I started, happened to be January 1978. It's one of the coldest months on record in Missouri. So I had my 1975 lime green Gremlin, 3 on the floor plus reverse. Good stereo system though. Used to go out at like 5 in the morning, start the car. Had to let it warm up, to melt down all the ice. I mean, it snowed, it froze like almost every day. And I went to the dock and got the old newspapers that they weren't using and would put them in the back because I couldn't afford snow tires. So that was my weight in the back of the car.
Wow.
And then would go to work, and you'd get there at like 5:30, like he's saying. Well, the presses would roll by noon, 12:30.
Yeah.
So then you would finish up and then get off work, do what you had to do, get a little sleep because you were probably covering a high school game. That's what, it was a high school-based newspaper.
Yeah.
Places like Palmyra, Missouri, Hannibal, Missouri. Louisiana, Missouri. There's a little town up there.
Yeah, I had a roommate when I was at the University of Missouri who was from Louisiana.
And of course, Glenn went to the University of Missouri, and I, who knows, what years were you there?
81 through 83.
Oh, so I was gone. I only stayed 7 months in Hannibal. It was the longest 3 years of my life. And
Missouri's a cool state.
Yeah.
Columbia is such a neat town, and you're right between 2 major league cities.
Yeah. Well,
I loved it there.
They let me, on my own expense, go drive the 100 miles down to St. Louis to cover the Cardinals.
Yeah.
So I got to cover opening day 1978, met Roger Maris.
Oh, Gary Templeton was on that team, right?
I think he might have been. Pete Falcone and Pete Vukovich. I became friends with that summer, got to know them. And Vukovich, of course, and in the movie Major League, was the bad guy first baseman. Going somewhere, meet. He was a pitcher for the Milwaukee Brewers, and then later was a GM.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's still in baseball, but it was a fun, exciting time for a 23-year-old who had no clue. I was just trying to hustle and cover and meet everybody I could. You were doing the same kind of thing at that age.
Sure. But I remember going to a lot of games at Busch. Templeton was there. It was right, and then Whitey came in and got Ozzie Smith and Raleigh Fingers. But those were great times, man. A lot of things are good about how journalism is now because the immediacy of it. You can get something up immediately on the website. But when newspapers were king, man, that was something else.
Yeah, when I came,
and it was a better product, I think.
Yeah, when I came to Baton Rouge, and when I wrote a column, it had impact, and there was a recognition factor. Not because I didn't get on television until we started this show in 1995, and people would recognize me from the column, and I thought that was really cool. Nowadays, I don't know if anybody picks up on that. As you know.
Yeah. Well, they can see the picture on the website, but now there's, because of the social media and the immediacy of all the stories, there's so many avenues for hateful people. Twitter, Facebook. Whereas in the old days they would have to sit down and write a letter to the editor.
An actual letter.
Right, and they wouldn't do that because it would take too long, and they probably weren't smart enough, I think.
I'd stop there before I get you. I'm going to get you out of trouble because we're so long into this segment. The man people love to hate. One of the best sports writers Louisiana's ever seen, Glenn Guilbeau. I'm Lee Feinswag. I'm not even going to quantify that. It's Sports 225. We'll be right back.
You're
Break out of the chaos.
We're back on Sports 225. I'm Lee Feinswag. Troublemaking Glenn Guilbeau is here with me from USA Today, Louisiana.
Thank you.
Yeah, he covers LSU, the SEC. Sometimes has to go down and cover the Saints. I would look at it as has to go down. You like going there.
Oh no, the Saints
the last time I went there was I freelanced a Saints assignment for the Atlanta newspaper when the Falcons came. This was many years ago, and they had moved that press box to upstairs.
Oh yeah.
And I said,
That's not good.
I'm never coming back.
But going to the Saints during the week is much better than covering LSU. I mean, pro football just understands the media. College is now all into shutting everything down. They're
Right.
down to 1 day of availability at LSU this year.
Sometimes you get to watch 3 or 4 minutes of practice.
Oh yeah, and they used to have players available right after the luncheon, right there. But
Yeah.
no, that was too easy. Now they just have them after practice on Mondays. So you have to go back. And it's just 1 day.
And that's
it's
not
as
fair for
many.
the people who come from out of town,
No,
who come to the luncheon.
No,
and need
and
to
so
stay,
they quit coming.
Yeah.
But when you go to the Saints, there's certain days Breeze is available, but you have locker room access, obviously, so you can get just about whoever you want, particularly on Wednesday. And some of them know how to slip out, but you can usually get them. And Sean Payton is available all the time. Coach O's very available, but the NFL is much more media friendly. You have open locker room after the game too.
Yeah.
And you can watch almost all of practice.
I did a lot of Saints stories for both USA Today and the Washington Post in the late 90s, early 2000s. And, covering the NFL, if you were a full-time NFL beat writer, like he says, media-friendly, every NFL city is a major league city, so you stay in good hotels, you go to great stadiums,
and
there's a lot to be said for that beat.
And the players and the organizations in the NFL, they realize that they're not supposed to be fans covering them.
Right.
Whereas in college, it's amazing, they still think that you should be a fan.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's almost like there's more fans every year covering the team.
No doubt. All right, so like I said, LSU plays Georgia in football, and we'll get to that. But I haven't seen you since your beloved Astros almost won the World Series.
Oh,
but
man,
I've
tough.
become even more of an Astros hater this year than before, and I have 3 reasons. The first is when I tried to become an Astros fan when they had won 44 games, they wouldn't respond to me. I was offering to be a free agent and be an Astros fan. All I wanted was, okay, thanks, Lee, or a reply to my letters, my emails, my tweets, anything. Never did, so, Then you can't watch them on TV. Oh, the reasons actually go to 4. You can't watch them on TV here. 3, when Verlander was pitching against the Tigers this year, there was a reporter he didn't like from Detroit, and the sports information people, whatever you call public relations directors from the Astros, blocked this reporter from coming into his press conference.
Yeah.
They should have been
That's
fined.
very college, too.
They should have been fined so badly. And then 4, the sexual harassment that went on in the postseason, they had to fire an assistant general manager.
But they did do the right thing in the end there.
They did, but it took them a while, and it
Well,
took them, public.
took them a few days.
So I say,
but they ended up doing the right thing.
Astros, ha!
Well, they still should have won that. I mean, it was a great series.
It
I have
was.
a lot of respect for the Nationals, what they did. But, man, that was tough. They had their opportunities, and they didn't score enough early in games when they could have won it. And then A.J. Hinch, as good as he's been, boy, he should have went to Garrett Cole earlier in relief and not have to wait for a clean inning. Garrett Cole was just so dominant.
They were so good all season.
Should have used him in relief.
And let me say this.
He let his bullpen get tired.
Yeah, but as an organization, I have no use for that. But I'll tell you, when you go to the Astros, it's a very positive, fan-friendly experience. The Minute Maid Park's great. The people who work there take good care of the fans, and the players, the ones that I know and have known, are super.
Oh yeah, Jose Altuve.
Yeah.
Those guys they're young. They're still really young, and Bregman. They're going to be great for a while.
Yeah, it's got to be cool to have covered Bregman in college and now see him doing what he's doing in the pros.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, he's really he's more dominant in the majors than he was in college.
Yeah,
he really is.
Yeah.
He had some slumps in college, which is a much shorter season, but he's just, and I'm sure he's had a few slumps in the majors, but that's a longer season, and he's more of a home run hitter, and just, he's really developed extremely well, and faster than I thought he would.
You can follow Glenn Guilbeau at LSU Beat Tweet. You can read his stuff at usatoday.com. I have the app, and so
Advertiser.com as well.
Yeah, I like going on USA Today, and I read it every day. In fact, one of my rituals before I go to sleep at night is to read BBC News, because I like to see what somebody from not in our country thinks about what's going on in the world. I read Reuters, which is also an independent news service. And I always read USA Today and go through, and that's a good place to find Glenn's stories, because as you scroll through the front page, you get down to basically advertiser content if you link yourself as such.
Right.
Anyway, It's Sports 225. When we get back, we will talk LSU football. LSU plays Georgia in the SEC championship game this Saturday. I'm Lee Feinswag at Sports 225.
Break out of the routine.
It's Sports 225. I'm Lee Feinswag, hanging out with Glenn Guilbeau of USA Today, Louisiana. He covers LSU, the SEC, occasionally some Saints, but we'll talk LSU Georgia SEC championship game right now. A couple of things that are interesting. Of course, LSU being 12-0 is a fairly remarkable achievement, considering not only who they played, but the manner in which them Tigers have just totally crushed people and scored points like I never thought I'd see.
And it really is unbelievable.
And let me
story
throw
of the year.
Yeah, let me throw this out for you. Except for Pete Maravich, okay, is this single season by Joe Burrow the single greatest LSU sports season that any athlete has ever had?
If they win the national championship, and maybe even if they don't, but if they win the national championship, I don't think there's any question, because he's going to obviously have a big hand in it. So yeah, I would have to agree, because as great as Pete was, you know, they did well in the NIT. That was
yeah, but
outstanding.
I still say what Pete did for
And he was
his
by
seasons.
himself.
Yeah, you can't. I don't.
You're talking about his senior season?
Yeah, but
Yeah,
still,
yeah.
I mean, averaging 44
Yeah.
points,
Oh, yeah.
everything. But
Yeah.
but you know, yeah, his senior season alone. And then there have been, you know, I think of some track and field athletes who have had remarkable years, winning multiple championships and doing great things. And you know, Shaquille O'Neal was the Player of the Year, and you know,
But didn't do well in postseason as a team.
yeah, you had a Heisman
so-
Trophy winner and a national
Yeah.
championship
And
team.
you know, I think
You know,
the
but-
strongest argument is Maravich and Cannon, because Cannon won the Heisman in '59, but you know, his '58 season they were undefeated national champions, and he played on both sides. So you could make a strong argument for him, but he wasn't the quarterback, so he wasn't touching the ball every time, you know, and
he wasn't breaking every single record along the way.
And he almost and Burrow has almost single-handedly just turned around the offense. And it's not like they used to be pretty good on offense. You know,
Right.
They used to be awful on offense just not that long ago, not that many years ago.
Yeah.
And you know, yeah, he's just taken over the league, and the records he's breaking have been set by you know, Spurrier and Hal Mumme, who revolutionized the offense in the '90s. You know, that's some of the records that are falling.
Yeah.
And he's so accurate, and he's such an athlete at the position.
but
so I got to give it to him.
But how did this happen? Is this the advantage of being a pro athlete at age 21, coming to college, never having to go to campus, taking just a couple of courses online, and spending all of your day doing nothing but training for mentally, physically, and emotionally for football? I mean, how did he become the prodigy? I mean, he was a guy. He transferred, and you don't transfer because things are going good and you're being treated well.
Right.
You know,
right.
how does he become this guy?
Of course, Cam Newton did it too and won the Heisman. Urban Meyer has had two quarterbacks he discarded that are going to win Heisman.
Okay, but look at Cam Newton, 6'6", and a physical specimen with physical abilities that are just unparalleled.
Right.
I mean,
right.
Burrow's a very good athlete, a nice size, but you don't look at him and go, he's a freak.
Right. He is pretty big for a quarterback. He's the ideal size for a quarterback, 6'3", and he's thick, you know, so he can run. He could play safety or tight end, really, if he wanted to. But I think he would be just as good if he was a regular senior taking the 12 hours, you know, because he's very smart. I mean, he graduated in not much over 3 years from Ohio State, so he's very smart, and you know, he doesn't have to take a lot of classes. That was funny, but yeah, and you know, Mettenberger did the same thing. He just took 3 hours his last year because he was graduated, and you know, they spent a lot of time in the film room. Of course, LSU's had quarterbacks who didn't spend much time at all in the film room. Okay, Mettenberger and Burrow really have done that, and you know, and Burrow's a coach's son, and I think it's obviously helped him that Joe Brady came in, but I think Burrow has helped Brady more.
I don't disagree.
You know,
Yeah.
because Brady's litmus test will be if he can get Miles Brennan to play well in this offense. But you know, Burrow is he's so accurate, and he's a leader. You know, and he does have great receivers.
And on that side, I'm glad you said that. You know, LSU, I always thought before this year was a team with receivers who dropped a lot of balls. And statistically, you could look that up.
Yeah, even
This year,
Guilbeau, as good as he was, he dropped quite a few.
these kids catch the ball.
Yeah.
And Burrow, of course, makes it a very catchable
Yeah,
ball.
and
You know, this whole thing, Gary Danielson, of course, refers to it as the back shoulder throw. But Burrow's done that better than anybody, where the receiver goes down, basically makes the defender keep running past him and comes back for a pass.
Right.
That's almost like it feels like a new technique in the last few years.
Well, it's also called throwing the receiver open, which Breeze has been doing his whole career. You know, just putting it where only the receiver can get it, even if he's covered. And LSU has not had many quarterbacks that can do that.
No doubt.
Jamar Chase broke a record. I think his season receptions that Rydell Anthony held from Spurrier days.
Ooh, right. There's a name I didn't expect to hear. It's
Yeah.
an old Florida guy. All right, we got time for just a little bit left in our last segment. He's Glenn Guilbeau. Follow him at LSU Beat Tweet. Read his stuff at theadvertiser.com and also usatoday.com. I'm Lee Feinswag at Sports 225.
Break out of the chaos.
Coming down the home stretch of another Sports 225. One more show left before we take a break for Christmas, and this our 25th year of Sports Monday and Sports 225. And luckily, Glenn Guilbeau's been on most of those years, and it's been a lot of fun. Thanks to Nils Breckhoff for pushing the buttons and directing the show today. Go to sports225.com to find out all of our show airings on Your View, which is Cox 4, and CST, Cox Sports Television. LSU plays Georgia, and you know, like you said in the break, maybe we ought to talk about the game. And you said it's not even going to be close. And I said, you think Georgia's going to win in that big of a rout? No, Georgia can't beat LSU, can they?
No, Georgia's just not very good on offense, and they're pretty good on defense, but they're not going to be able to hold LSU down. So I think LSU is going to win probably by 14, 17 points.
42-24, something like that you could live with?
35-14, 34-17, something like that.
Every time I think that, you know, especially the Alabama game, I thought for sure this would be like a game in the 20s. And
Alabama's just not good on defense.
No. But, you know, to Alabama's defense, which I know you love that. Hey, I'm wearing my semi-Alabama colors here. You know, had Tua not gotten hurt, they'd still be in that top four.
And if Dylan Moses had not gotten hurt, I mean, you look at that. That's everybody's saying Nick's done and all this, and I mean, he lost two really good players.
I wrote about Dylan
for the
Moses
whole
when he was in
season.
the 8th grade
Yeah.
and committed.
Yeah.
You know,
and they had freshmen there playing linebacker, but they are slipping. I mean, they don't have the depth they used to have, and he just can't.
I don't know how. I mean, how can you do it every single year?
Yeah, exactly.
You've got to have a lull, and
and he had a lull before, and then he hired Lane Kiffin. He turned it around.
Right. Who was the Alabama coach when you covered him when you were in Mobile?
Gene Stallings.
Oh yeah,
and he was good. I mean,
Yeah.
he was very good.
They won a national championship
Yeah,
with him.
and then in '94 they were very good, but they couldn't get into the championship game. But they were close.
All right, now in our remaining minute, so it looks like, barring something unusual, if Ohio State wins and LSU wins, LSU will likely play Clemson in the national semifinals, probably in Atlanta, because somebody told me that Ohio State, which the number one team, gets dibs on whether you go to Phoenix or go to Atlanta, and Ohio State has already said they want Phoenix. I don't know if that's true. That's just what I heard somewhere along the line. But nonetheless, LSU would play Clemson. What are your thoughts there?
Well, I mean, you know, Clemson and Ohio State, I think, are the only teams in the country that would be favored against LSU, and maybe Clemson won't be, depending on what happens in the next week. But I mean, I think LSU can beat anybody. You know, and I think Ohio State can beat anybody. I mean, Ohio State versus LSU would be a classic national championship.
And in New Orleans of all the
yeah,
damn things.
and not
right?
to mention Joe Burrow playing his old school. I mean, that's two great teams. But Clemson is. I mean, LSU would have the tougher road, obviously, if they got to beat Clemson, then Ohio State.
Yeah. All right.
So,
well,
but maybe LSU will be number one before on Sunday, December 8th.
no, it's very true. That's why they play the games. He's
Right.
Glenn Guilbeau. You can follow him at LSU Beat Tweet. You can read his stuff at theadvertiser.com, at usatoday.com, or on the USA Today app, which is where I read his stuff. I'm Lee Feinswag. You can follow me on Twitter at Lee Feinswag. If you're really bored, I really don't post very much. And thank you, sir. It's great as always.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks for
you.
watching Sports 225, and see you here next week.
At carnival time by Baton Rouge Bay, that's the site of my story. At Spanish Town Mardi Gras, things can get blurry. See the mowers marching